Blackridge. Seen from afar, its hills and knolls look like a thick black line smeared on the horizon. Those who live nearby tell the stories of lawless brigands and monsters that dwell there, and yet they're also secretly glad Blackridge exists. For one, the hill line and its main fortified town, Nightbloom Crossing, separate them from even more dangerous parts of Evershade. The hills also block some of the deadly sun that slips between the discs of Luada and the ground in the dangerous hours of sunlight and sundown. For you, Blackridge was also a promise of a better life and frontier where one could still earn a name for themselves and make a living. And eventually, it became your home for 6 long months. Greetings, I'm Barrett and welcome to Meet Me at the Table. Today we're going to dig into our game Lands of Evershade. This is the prototype for the game coming to GameFound. I'll make sure to put a link to the GameFound page in the description of this video, so please go check it out if you like what you see here. In our last video, we were able to unbox this game and also make some characters. And we're going to be digging into the White Well as our story for the game Lands of Evershade. We're going to start right from the beginning. As you heard from the intro, that is our very first passage that we're going to be digging into. This is going to be kind of a very tutorial scenario, but I think that's going to be very important for those that are interested in backing this game. Hopefully it will go through everything you see or everything you're going to need to know about the game. And if it doesn't, at the end of the video, I might explain a few things that may not have been shown off during our playthrough of Lands of Evershade. If you did watch my playthrough of the character creation, one thing I forgot to do is we created a paladin, and when I did, I was supposed to put the paladin strength to 4, so I had to adjust that on our character board. This game is highly narrative, and at the time of this recording, the narrative was not out for Lands of Evershade. They do have an app coming that will be able to fully voice this game, especially when this game comes to fruition. But even during this prototype campaign, there may be some playthroughs out there that do have the actual app reading, but for this one, you're going to hear my wonderful voice. And on top of that, you're probably going to hear some mispronounced words, so please bear with me. So that is what I have. If you're excited to see Lands of Evershade and see if we can make it through at least Act 1, then I need you to meet me at the table. Let's continue from right after the initial reading. It shows here that, like I said in the intro, that this is a starting chapter for Into the White Well. It contains a tutorial for new players. If it's the first time you or anyone in the party is playing, use the tutorial redirection when you come upon it to be able to guide you through the steps of how to play this game. For example, there's a tutorial redirection right below this example. If you're new to Lands of Evershade, use it and go to entry 25. And we'll be doing a lot of these tutorials. If there is a particular tutorial that I don't think is going to benefit us from reading it, I will be skipping it and explaining what that tutorial page had to go and tell you and what it's going to be explaining as we play through the game. But for most of them, I'm probably going to go to these tutorial pages so you can see them. If you're feeling confident about the knowledge of the game, ignore and keep reading the text. It will redirect you to a different entry. So for example, we're going to be going to 25, but if we had already played this game, or if we read a 25 and understand that everything we're doing there we already know about, we'd just go to 9. I will say that this game book goes through the first 3 acts of this initial campaign from what I understand, and the book is about 100 pages long. Now, of course, you're never going to see the entire book unless you play through this multiple times. It says here, events presented in Lands of Evershade storybooks will often change or adapt depending on the character or their origin, race, profession, items, and many other factors. Everything that makes you who you are is represented by keywords that can be found in the character equipment spaces of the character board. Every keyword looks like this. It's going to be a bolded word. Now here I've got I will show you kind of what they're talking about, and they do have some examples down below. But here for our example, we have Arcane Academy as an origin for our paladin, and if anything came up that we had Cityborn Thorn, Arcane, or Investigation. That would be keywords that we would be using and looking for when it comes to where to go in a passage. Whenever you find the redirection with the keyword requirement, you must follow this redirection immediately, even if only one person in the party has it. So for example, if you come upon this sentence, if you have Druid or Warfare, go to 9. If you have Battle Magic, go to 10. You check the title in your character and item spaces of your board. You notice that the profession tile has a Warfare keyword while your other party member may have Battle Magic keyword. This means you must immediately go to entry 9. The Battle Magic redirection does not take place since your party met the criteria of the first redirection. You are not allowed to read or resolve anything beyond that. All right, so for example, if this showed up, what it's saying is that we would basically go down the different tags, and whichever one we come across first, that is where we're going to go. The next entry will give you keyword introduction text, and depending on your keywords will be redirected. And now it says to go to 9. So even if we didn't read this, we'd still be going to 9 based on the game itself. So the tutorial are just going to give us a step out of the game and then bring us back in. Page 9 states that each player may find a paragraph below that matches a profession keyword of their character. Each player reads this paragraph in secret. Once all the players have finished reading, go to 5. Before we dig into our professions that we're supposed to read about, let's introduce our characters. The first one we have here is Talism. He's a human. This is going to be our hunter class. What you're seeing on the board, in case you missed the player creation, is we have our, our race up here, our origin over here, and our class right here. Now, of course, we'll be able to slot in different things as we go through the game that are going to expand our character. This is where, as we advance, we're going to be able to gain different skills based on our card or the way we want to advance our character. These are our starting attributes. This is our magic, I believe. It's called Divinium, and we have a move value of 6. Here's our hit points, and these are all the abilities we have that we might be using in combat or outside of combat. And when any of these come up, I will explain kind of how they work. And if you're interested in seeing these or explained fully, you can of course check out my player creation video as well. And we do have 1 gold. Our other character here is Mulla. He's a Bulgrim character. He's our paladin. He's super strong, but not very agile. He's carrying a hammer and a giant shield, which is pretty awesome. He was part of the Arcane Academy, which gave him this mystical grimoire. And each one of these items, if you look on the back, does have a number associated with it. And that is going to be giving you other abilities for the cards over here that you can choose to slot in. Now, at the beginning, you could only ever slot in 6 from what I understand, but as you go forward, you'll be able to unlock other areas of this board to be able to give you more skills and abilities going forward. He does have, like I said, a ton of strength, but everything else is pretty similar to the other character you saw. Since we have a hunter, we will read that one. There are 2 professions we could read about that were not part of the actual player's handbook I got for the prototype, one being barbarian and the other one being mage. So there are other classes, professions that are going to be used in this game other than the 4 you saw in my player creation. And because of course, everything you see here is a prototype. It says, the jobs seem complicated from the beginning, even for a proficient tracker such as yourself. Locating a young merchant who disappeared in the vastness of Blackridge was a tough call, especially since the trail already went cold, and the only witness of the disappearance, his cart driver, had not regained consciousness, confined to India's house of healing. Still, you accepted. The money was too good, the lure of Blackridge too strong. Since then, you kept wandering the hills chasing faint clues in between these expeditions. You spent hours talking to a local healer next to the body of the unconscious witness. She wanted as much as you to find the missing man. Eventually, the last lead brought you to a cave that turned out to be the lair of a Draco-Lich. You fled, wounded and angry, realizing the man you spent so much time looking for was most likely eaten. And with that sad realization, you limped back to Enid. Next, we have a paladin on our team, so we're going to read this. You first came to know Enid during your days as an acolyte of the Order. Being one of the most renowned healers of the realm, she taught you a lot about the care of both wounds and the souls of the people of Evershade. That is why, years later, you did not hesitate when she called for your help. Inyid's new home, the town of Nightbloom Crossing, deep in Blackridge, was threatened by lawlessness. She asked the order for a peacekeeper. You volunteered. Soon you discovered you'd bitten off more than you could chew. The corruption ran deep. You survived several murder attempts, after which Inyids nursed you back to health. Finally, you caught the trail of the person behind it. An important member of Nightbloom's community. You confronted the woman and were forced to kill her and her bodyguard. Then, with gnawing doubts and a wound in your side, you limped back to Inyid's house of healing. At this point, each character is going to gain an injury token. Oh no, well, we all went out and came to this particular area and we have gotten injured doing it. So the injury condition is this token right here, and it says right underneath it, place the token in the character space on your board. If the character has more than 3 injuries or other conditions, they will die. Injuries can be healed while resting in various places you meet when exploring. Conditions are here. We have 3 of them. Areas we can put 3 things. We'll place an injury token right there, and we'll place one in the other character's board as well. Okay, we hopefully can get rid of that soon. Continuing with the story, it states, whoever you were, wherever you came from, Blackridge was not kind to you. Now, in the warm light and soothing smell of Indra's house of healing, you may, at the very least, relax before you decide what to do next. You breathe slowly, taking in the smoke of healing herbs that smolder in the bazaar. You look toward a couple other weary adventurers who sit in different parts of the hall. You vaguely remember meeting them on the trails or in small villages. Some look shady or foreign, but this doesn't bother you. After all, every one of you left their weapons with the grumpy housecarl by the door. Inyid accepts no nonsense in her house. Those unwilling to play by the rules are welcome to limp to a healer in the nearest city of Whitewell, some weeks away, or patch themselves up with clumps of moss or pieces of string. At this point, we'll go to 6. You almost fall asleep, but the creak of an old wood brings you back to the smoke-filled room. The doors of the inner sanctum open. Beyond them, you see an older woman thanking Inyid for her red-haired apprentice, Lorith. Then, the patient walks away, leaving her cane by the wall. Inyid looks toward you and smiles. A few irregular golden patches on her chin glint in the candlelight. She makes no effort to disguise her gift of divinium, and considering the faint glow behind her head, she may be one of the most powerful wielders on the frontier. Inyid opens her mouth as if she was about to summon you. You begin to rise, but then the door of the House of Healing violently swings open. A cold draft enters the room, blowing out some of the candles. The smell of herbs is choked out by the thick odor of blood. A cloaked figure stumbles into the house. The housecarl briefly pats down the wounded man and removes his blood-stained coat that falls heavily to the floor. One look at the gaping wound that was under his soaked garment makes Inyid go pale. "God, who did this?" she shouts, ushering the man to her sanctum. "A rot giant, good Lady Indrid," you hear the man answer as they pass before you. "Skewered me with a spear, barely made my way here." The door to the sanctum slams behind them. You sit back, trying to relax. However, one detail keeps bothering you. So here's our first set of tags, or I should say keywords, that we need to check for. So the first one is marksmanship, subterfuge, or nature. We're playing with 2 characters, and one of our characters, the hunter, does have not only marksmanship, but also has nature. So we're going to be, that's the first keyword that we're going to hit in the options for what we're supposed to turn to. So that's the option we will do. So with our marksmanship, that's going to put us at 12. And that passage states, you try to relax and await your turn, but your mind keeps going back to the mysterious man. Your sharp eyes glide over his crumpled overcoat left lying by the entrance and focus on the blood splatters on the ground. There's something rising from the dark droplets, too small and faint for anyone else in the room to see it. You stand up with a grunt, walk closely, and kneel by one of the splatters. You now see them, barely visible, golden wisps in the air that bend toward you like grass on a breeze. Divinium. The man has a powerful wielder for his blood to be this infused. But if he has so much power himself, stopping the bleeding shouldn't be much trouble, unless... You spring to your feet with a chilling realization. Go to 19. It states as there is only one character play. Go to 17. There's not. We are playing with two, so we'll continue on. You're not the only one to rise up. Some other patrons of the house also noticed some suspicious details and sprang forth from their seats, ready for action. For a moment, your eyes lock, and you give each other a nod. Whatever happens, at least you won't have to face it alone. So at this point, we're going to check out tutorial 20, but I think what it's going to talk about is how to figure out who is going to be the party leader. You're about to make your first choice. Roll a d12 for each character. Give the decision token to the player with the highest roll. In case of a tie, repeat the tied rolls. The storybook contains many choices and situations where you have to pick your path forward. Whenever you find the word choose, your entire party has to pick one of the listed options and apply its results. Some choices have requirements. You may only make such choices if at least one person in the party meets the requirements. Remember, the party can make only one choice. If you can't come to an agreement, you should discuss it with other players and try to convince each other which decision makes the most sense. Of course, if negotiations fail, hold a vote. If the vote is tied, the owner of the decision token must use it to break ties. The person with the decision token may also use it to perform a choice themselves. Then they pass the decision token clockwise. For this example, it shows that player 1 and 2 reach the following choice in the storybook. You would choose, requires sleight of hand to pick the lock, go to A, requires athletics to go break the lock to B, or ignore the lock and leave it, go to C. None of them have sleight of hand keyword, so the first option is unavailable. Player 1 has a character with athletics, so the second option is open, just like the third one with no requirements. The players discuss it, but are unable to convince each other what would be right in this situation. Player 1 uses the decision token and picks the middle option. He can do this even if he personally does not have athletics keyword. However, the decision token then goes to player 2, who is free to use it in the future. Also, I do want you to understand that this is a choose option, just like it said earlier. So unlike the other one where it was whichever one you have first you have to do, this one is a choose option, meaning that no matter how many of them there are, you can choose which one you want to do based on, of course, either the decision token or a vote or some kind of negotiation. It's pretty awesome. Actually, I think that's kind of cool that they have these options in here. We're going to go to 17. A loud rumble and a muffled, pained scream of a woman comes from behind the door of the inner sanctum, confirming your suspicions that something is very wrong. You may have seconds to act. At this point, we have to choose to either break down the door. You'll face a potentially dangerous opponent with your bare hands, but you will come to the rescue faster. The other option is to grab your weapons first, running to the confused housecarl at the entrance and coming back with your weapons will not take long, but it may still be too long. Go to 3. Just to demonstrate how this kind of works, we're going to roll 2 different dice. This one with the black numbers is going to be our paladin. This one with the white numbers is going to be our hunter. We're just going to roll these up to see who gets that token. The one with the highest number will. So our hunter does have possession of the token, which is right here. This is the decision token. We'll place that just right up there. And now if we decided to potentially, let's say, have an argument about which way to go, what was more important, we could then, at the end, no matter how it all transpired, this person would kind of have the last say in how this all transpires based on what we decide to choose. Coming back to our choices, I think the best plan for us, this sounds like a foe that has a lot of power. I think we need weapons. We're going to grab our weapons and see what happens. Go to 3. It takes you several seconds to retrieve a weapon. In the meantime, the screams from the sanctum become louder and more desperate. With no time to arm yourselves more, you rush to the door where the housecarl and other patrons have already gathered. Move one item tile with melee from your pouch to your character board. Mark A in the story tracker. Go to 13. When we built our characters, we had given them all of their different abilities and also all of our items that we have available to us. It sounds like from when you start this game, you should actually start with none of it. You should have nothing on your player boards other than your base stats for your character, and of course, you got an injury token. So I'm going to be able to grab a melee weapon. This character has 2 different melee weapons. No, it doesn't. I lied. It's got a shield, doesn't have melee at all, because remember, we're looking for keywords. The keyword melee is found on the hammer, so I am going to put the hammer inside the weapon, and if it asks us to use any of our ability cards out here, I do get to take the card 102 unless it does tell me otherwise. I'm not going to take it now. That might be something that we're going to be doing down the future, but I do get to gain a melee weapon. I also get one for our hunter as well, but the 2 weapons this hunter has is bow and dagger, and it said I have to take a melee weapon, so I'm going to take the dagger. I don't get to grab my bow right now, which I was really hoping to have. Here's our story tracker that will track any type of decisions we make in the game. And of course, these decisions may come back to haunt us or help us in the future. I'm going to place our token down in A. So if it ever asks me anything about whether or not we've marked story point A in on this tracker, we'll know if we do or not. I really like that instead of having to write things down and just got this whole tracker right there for us. Continuing with the story, it says Indian always locks the door to her study with a simple chain lock when she's seeing a patient. It shouldn't take much force to break. You make a running start and smash against the locked door of the sanctum with all your might. We'll move to tutorial number 21, which is probably going to talk about our fate tokens and how to make these checks. Here's the tutorial about fate. It says for each character, take 1 fate token and put it in your character pouch. Then give each player a fate help card. So here are the fate tokens for this particular prototype. Of course, moving forward, these may change. So we're going to grab 1 for each of our characters and place them into our pouch. And the pouch is for the tutorial, or for the prototype, is just this like box here. They're not going to fit in the box, so I'm just going to place them next to that box. But do know that we have a fate token available to us in the pouch. Now, I don't know if that's actually available to us because it's not technically really in our inventory. We'll find out as we play. Fate tokens represent your destiny, your inborn ability to influence the world. They can be spent in many useful ways, such as re-rolling the dice or adding more dice to a roll, all detailed on the help card. They are earned mostly by failing rolls or rolling a natural 1 when doing different rolls. In the moment, you will have to face your first roll of the game, the strength check to break down the door to India's sanctum. The stakes are high, so remember to spend your fate to influence the dice. If luck is not on your side today, any rolls in Lands of Evershade follow a similar pattern. For detailed rules for resolving roll, consult the rulebook. It states here we're now going to roll for a strength 4 plus 1 die if you have large, close combats, or athletics. If we get the amount of successes we need, we go to 7. If we fail, we go to 15. It says here first roll help, which we're going to take. It says here's how to resolve this particular roll step by step. Please note this section does not contain the full rules of rolls. Anything that's not related to the specific roll may have advanced rules that are not mentioned here. Also, I want to mention that our Fate help card is right here. Here is the Fate part of this help card. It says here that we have the ability to spend Fate to reroll any of your dice, including Divinium dice. Also, I can spend 1 to refresh a card. We can spend 1 to add to the Divinium dice value. I could also spend 1 to prevent any terror, and I could spend 2 to gain an action. And just like we learned in the tutorial, I'm able to gain these whenever I resolve a fail condition, or I gain 1 for each one when I resolve the outcome of a roll. For this particular roll, instruction above means you choose 1 character to perform a roll. Then choose that character rolls a number of d12s equal to their strength, adds more dice if this character has at least 1 of the listed keywords, large, close combat, or athletics. Then each other character who has at least 1 of those keywords may support the roll by rolling 1 dice. Or 1 die, I should say, sorry. Check the result of all dice and count the number of successes. Rolls equal or above 4, the difficulty of the roll. Natural 12s is a critical result and it counts as 2 successes. In this particular roll, I'll need to achieve the CN, which is going to be 4. 4 is the difficulty for this. It's with the combat number plus successes. The icon represents the number higher than the number of characters in play. If the result is lower than the number of characters in play, consult your Fate card and spend Fate re-rolling the dice. Once you're satisfied with the result or decide to stop re-rolling, characters gain fate for each natural one on the die. Then re-rolling, characters gain one fate more if the roll was failed. Now, based on the number of successes, there are two possibilities. If my score was more, or character number or more, then go to entry 7. If it's less, go to entry 15. Lucky for us, our paladin is an absolute monster. He's got 4 strength, so he's going to be rolling 4 dice. Also, I'm going to get a bonus, a number of dice equal to the amount of keywords I have for large, close combat, or athletics. I do not have close combat or athletics, but my race is a large race. So I'm going to be rolling 5 dice for this particular character to be able to do this test. Now, it doesn't have to be the case that I pick that character. I could choose this character to roll those dice as well, but I only have 2 strength here, so it seems a little silly to do that. Not only that, I now need to check to see if this person can contribute any dice to help. I'm looking for large, close combat, or athletics. And if we look at any of the keywords that this character has, none of them are large, close combat, or athletics. So this character is technically just going to sit by and watch this giant hulking character charge this door. We will roll 5 dice for this character, and I'm looking for 4s or better. I've got a lot of 4s or better. And remember, I need successes more than the character number. And we have 2 characters, so I need 3 successes. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 that are over 4, and on top of that, I rolled a 1. With that 1, I'm going to be able to gain another fate token. So we're going to give this fate token to Malar the Bulgrim, and we're going to go into our success version of this test. The door springs open, the links of its burst chain fall like rain and slide along the floor. Before they come to a stop, you barge into the sanctum and come to a halt, paralyzed. The man who Inyad carefully ushered into the room now stands above her body, knife buried deep in her chest. The twitching coils of a living, golden power rise from her chest, eyes, and ears. As if weightless, they flow toward the man and wiggle into his exposed skin. With his head thrown back, the murderer barely sees you, consumed by the pain of the bonding. A deep wound in his gut begins to close, covered with faint golden strands. Inyad hangs dead, limp in his hands. You clench your fist, ready for action. So at this point, each character without an equipped item places an improvised weapon. Item tile in their hotbar. Now, I do have actual items, so I don't have to put the improvised weapon, but the improvised weapon, in case you don't know, is a baguette. That's super awesome. So I'd love to go hit people with bread, but we're not going to. We actually have weapons. Each character is going to take a hotbar, and then for each character, move all action cards with the number, starting with B from their pouch, to their hotbar front colored side up. The action cards are divided into 3 types: offensive, defensive, and support. Make sure to place them in the correct slots, colored side up and gray side down. Depending on your race, these will include an action or attack, 3 of 3 possible dodge cards, 1 of 3 possible endurance cards, combat insight, and command cards. If you have a weapon other than the improvised weapon in the equipment space of your character board, move its action card from your pouch to your hotbar as well. And it looks like if you have A or B as one of your story points, you're going to go to 22. If not, you go to 23. If you saw my player setup video, you're going to know how this kind of works, but we're going to take all the cards that have the letter B plus a number for each of our characters, and each of them do have different ones based on the race that they chose. This one is going to have a clumsy dodge, where the other character will not. We're going to slot these into it this side up, and we're going to place them in there where their different, shape is going to fit. For example, I can't put this over here because it doesn't have a triangle or a circle. It's got this like, what is this? It's a rhombus? No, trapezoid maybe. Haven't taken geography in a while. Or geology, or not even geology, geometry. Nailed it first try. All right, combat insight here. That one is a circle, so we can go over on this side. We do also have attack. That's a triangle, so we'll put that on this side. We have exceptional endurance. We'll put that on this side. We have command, and we have our smash card. Now, the smash card we got because we have our hammer. Our hammer tells us to take card 102. So I'm actually going to put the smash card up here in our offense. I'm going to remove our attack because our smash is better. And I'm going to put this command card in here as well as a support action. I could have put it over here if I want to. Actually, I think I can. I'm going to do that. I can put all our cards here. Look at this. I can fill our board up. Now remember, I only get 6 because these are not unlocked yet because we haven't gained enough experience for our character to unlock these other slots. And in case you missed my player setup video, here are the different skills. And the way they work here is, for example, our smash is an attack. It requires a hammer, which I have. It's going to have a range 1. Range is always determined orthogonally. I'm going to roll strength and deal damage equal with my hammer. Some of our other ones, like exceptional endurance, is going to be good for being able to withstand damage and hopefully soak up the damage, where clumsy dodge is going to try to dodge that damage. We have command here, which gives us the ability to put more tokens into our initiative bag, and I'm sure there'll be a combat soon. I have a feeling this guy's the guy we're going to fight. This is going to be able to allow us to hopefully draw more of our character tokens out of there. This one is going to be able to help give people extra. You can help out in other people's roles with support dice. The human is basically average at about everything, so there's not one that's going to be exceptional for this particular character, but we do have dodge, we have endurance, and we have combat insight. We also have our stab, which we're going to use with our dagger. Now, sadly, I can't use shoot, which I would have got with my bow because we don't have that yet. We'll place this one here. I'm going to move defensive dodge up there, and I'm going to put command right there. That is going to be our human. Now, I want you also to be aware that as you go through the game, something you can do as you level up is it might give you the ability to change some of these basic cards out. So for example, I might be able to gain, instead of combat insight, exceptional combat insight going forward, instead of potentially something else I may want to learn. So these basic actions can improve as you go forward in the game, and there is different states. For example, our dodge card would either be clumsy dodge, or exceptional dodge. So you can get different ones based on how many you decide to go towards when it comes to leveling up your basic cards. But of course, you're also going to have the option of gaining new powers and abilities based on your class or your secondary abilities here. So here, for example, is our primary card. Primary is Hunter. So here's our experience leveling up. We can go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 as we level up, or we could put some into our secondaries, which is Marksmanship and Nature. So we could go into these as well as we level up, or and some of these might be able to help us improve some of these cards out here and give us brand new cards going forward. So there are a lot of really interesting options on how you're going to level up your character. Now, everybody's primary one is unique, but the secondary ones may overlap with other characters that are out in the game. For example, Nature, I believe, also will be on the Druid card or the Druid class, so you'd be able to share that with them. The Paladin has Warfare, Battle Magic, and the primary one, so neither of these people are going to be overlapping as party members when it comes to learning any of their secondary skills or abilities. After putting those back, or putting them down, I should say, I'm going to place my pouch back there. I'm going to put now these items should technically be in my pouch, but I'm just going to leave them on top for now. And we're done with that. Let's move on. Behind the killer and the victim, India's teenage apprentice sits in a pool of blood, her head hung low, hands still clutching a nasty slash on her thigh. Not only did this man take the best healer in Blackridge from its struggling people, he also took a life to gain more divinium, and this is a sin no one in Evershade would allow. You charge the murderer, screaming. He retrieves his knife and steps back. Still confused by the bonding, and with his wound not fully healed, he doesn't seem ready to stand against you, the other patrons, and the housecarl behind your back. Instead, he dives for the nearest window and smashes it open, and flees into the mud-covered street. At this point, it says to discard Into the Whitewell cover sheet from the story tracker. I didn't realize that I had to have this available. We're going to look at this cover sheet very soon. It then says find sheet 1 and place it to the left slot of the story tracker. The game may use up to 2 sheets at the same time, placed in slots on the left and right of the story tracker. Please ensure one of these 2 spaces remains free in case you need to place another sheet. The tutorial also states that most sheets contain a set of spaces for models and a set of actions you use while on this sheet. You will find more information about them in the rulebook, but for now take note that double lines are impassable and single gray lines can be moved through. The tutorial continues with the lettered slots on the story tracker are used to keep track of your decisions and their consequences. We've kind of discussed this a little bit going forward. It says go to 4. This means you should go to entry 4 if slot A is marked on the story tracker, or if it's not marked, if B is not marked, go to 4. This means you should go to entry 4 if slot B is not marked on the story tracker. At this point, we're just going to place the party model in the House of Healing slot of sheet 1 in the upper left-hand corner of the sheet, and we're going to go to 8. This is the cover sheet for the Lands of Evershade Into the White Well. I should have actually had this available to me, and this is what we should have used to start our adventure, not just starting on page 1 of the book. There are some setup instructions for us down here at the bottom of this page here. It says to place the story tracker to the left of the sheet, so we have it right here available. We're supposed to take boards 1 through 5 containing characters with 0 advancements. We did that. None of our characters have any advancements, but we're supposed to leave all of the item and cards belonging to characters in their pouches, which is why it's told us to place certain things into our player boards as opposed to having them already available to us based on our player building in the last video. So I've actually should have had a lot of their items to the side along with all their actions, which is why it made a little bit more sense as to why we're setting them up as we went through here. And then we're going to go to entry 1 of White Well Storybook, which we did. So the only thing I kind of messed up on is the fact that we should have not had any of our actions or our items on our board, but that's okay. It did not affect the playthrough at all. We are going to remove that particular cover sheet from the game and move on to the first secret sheet. This is sheet 1. We're going to flip that over and see what we have. It says here we have the chase. Objective, catch the murderer or prevent him from escaping by reaching the town gate. There are some special rules. They're about moving the enemy. It says if the danger model is in a space with a marker, remove the marker. If danger model is in a space, roll a d8. 1 to 5, move the danger model to the triangle. 6 to 8, move the danger model to the circle. Then, if the danger model reached the town gate, go to 65. The last bit of information we got is we have to place the party model in the House of Healing. This is the party model since it's going to represent the entire group that we have. We'll place it right down here. And this is, the Awakened Realms do have a full set of miniatures for this that I was provided for this playthrough. They are done with their sun-dropped pledge, or I should say paint job. So this will be obviously one of the ways of being able to get a hold of these miniatures during the campaign is you'll get them and you can either have them gray or they will do the sun drop for you as well. So here's our House of Healing. We'll place it right there. Again, it did mention to remember that these more thick lines are going to be impassable, where the gray ones, small gray ones you see here, are going to be ones we can move through. So for example, if we went from the House of Healing to the cattle pens, we'd be able to move through here, and then we could move down to the main street and then to market stalls. And as we move, we might be able to uncover more of the mystery as to who this guy is and where he's going. Returning to the story, it says, with this amount of divinium, the murderer is incredibly dangerous, even though he'll suffer the side effects of bonding for a short while. You don't want to spread thin. You'll have to choose what to focus on. Saving the life of a healer's apprentice, Lorith, alerting the town of the crime, or rushing after the killer immediately. Our choices are: chase the murderer and shout for the housecarl to tend to Loreth's wounds. You have the best chance of catching the fugitive early. The clumsy housecarl will do what he can to keep the girl alive. Unfortunately, no one will raise the alarm to alert the town. Then we go to 28. We could chase the murderer and shout at the housecarl to raise the alarm in the village. You'll have the best chance of catching the fugitive early. The entire town will be alerted soon. Unfortunately, the wounded girl will be left in the unskilled hands of other patrons. That'll take us to 30. The other two options are we could tend to the wounds and send the housecarl after the murderer. This gives the girl the best chance to survive, and the old housecarl will at least slow the murderer before you are able to join the chase. Unfortunately, no one will raise the alarm in the village. And finally, the last one is we could cure the wounds and have the housecarl raise the alarm, which gives the girl the best chance to survive. The entire town will be alerted soon. Unfortunately, the fugitive will have a significant head start once you're able to join the chase. You know we're totally going to chase this murder, right? There's no reason not to. We're totally going to chase this guy down. We're going to chase this guy down, but now we have to decide, are we going to raise the alarm or tend to the wounds? I have a feeling that she is going to die if we do not help her, but I think finding this guy and figuring out what is going on is going to be our best choice of action. So we are going to go to 30. You snap the housecarl out of a stupor with a harsh command. He runs toward the bell tower while you, driven by wrath, burst into the street in pursuit of the fugitive. The murderer picks up his pace, racing toward the labyrinth of narrow streets. Behind you, Leorith lies abandoned in a pool of her own blood. Mark C on the story tracker. We'll place a token right here. I switched to the cubes as opposed to using those little things because I think they're easier to see for us. So I have now checked off A and C on the story tracker. Coming back here on sheet 1, we're going to place a danger model in dark alleyways slot. We'll place a marker on the bell tower slot. And we'll place a marker on the toll house slot. Now, lucky for us, Colin's not playing with us. Otherwise, this definitely would not have been what he would have picked. He would have picked to save her at all costs and let the murderer go. So here we are. We're instead making every effort we can to try to track this guy down. So it tells me to put a marker in the bell tower and also in the toll house. Now these are the markers we're supposed to use just to signify these things, but we also have some cool miniatures we might not be using. So here's these are actually quest markers, which you'd be placing out to find different quests that you could take on. But I'm going to use them just as markers right now, just so you can see more of the cool models. But normally we'd use these red tokens to signify the markers for what we are going to use in this particular scenario. At this point, we'll turn to number 51. The chase is on! With the high wall surrounding the town on all sides, you realize the enemy's only hope is to reach the town gate before it closes. This gives you two options. You can either try to catch and take down the murderer alone, or reach the gate before him and stop him there with the help of the gate watchers. The dark, sleepy town extends before you with its narrow alleyways, rooftops, and checkerboard of backyards. You see two main paths ahead. You could vault over into the cattle pen if you're not afraid of its panicked inhabitants. The only alternative is to enter the narrow alleyways of the poor district. It says here that whenever you're instructed to move the enemy, use the detailed rules sheet on sheet number 1. At this point, we now have to choose, do we want to run through the cattle pens? Do we want to navigate the dark alleyways? Or we could try to cry out for help, but that requires no marker on the toll house space, and we already have that there, so we're not going to do that one. So I think what we're going to try to do is navigate the dark alleyways. After all, that's where he is. All we have to do is get to him. It's easy to get lost in a web of small, nearly identical alleyways. I have to roll an intelligence 9. I get +1 die for Cityborn or Sleight of Hand. At this point, if we have 3 or more successes, we get to move to 52. If we have 1, move the enemy and go to 52. Or if we have none, we move the enemy twice and go to 52. Oh, that's absolutely bad. We're going to choose our paladin to make this roll. The paladin has 2 intelligence, so we're going to be able to roll 2 dice. On top of that, the paladin does have City Born as one of its tags here, keywords. So I'm going to be able to roll an extra die. The hunter also has 2 intelligence, so I could have used either one of them to roll, but I wanted to choose this one because it also has this keyword. If I chose the other character to do this, they would get their 2 dice to roll. I would still get my keyword to be able to assist the roll, but once the roll is done, we could spend fate to reroll any number of dice that we have rolled. So for him, he would only have been able to reroll this die with his fate, where she would have to spend fate to roll these 2. Since he's doing all the roll, he can just use 1 fate to choose which ones he wants to reroll. I don't expect to get all 3 successes, but I'm looking for at least 1 to be able to be successful. I did get 1 9, and that's what we needed to be at least, I guess, half successful. So we did get 1 success. So we're going to move the enemy and go to number 52. First, we're going to check our special rules to see how to move the enemy. If the danger model is in the space with a marker, remove the marker. If the danger model's in the other space, roll a d8. If I get a 1 through 5, I'm going to move the danger model to a triangle space. If I get a 6 through 8, I'll move it to a circle space. Then, if the danger model reached the town gate space, I will go to 65. So we'll take our die, roll it up. We got a 5. So that's going to move him towards the triangle, which is going to be down here. We're going to have to deal with the river, and we're going to move ourselves 1 space towards it. 52 states, move the party model to the dark alleyways space. We've kind of already did that, but it's okay. A tightly packed poor district separates the House of Healing from the center of the town. Somewhere beyond it, there's a big main street, but you'll have to use your wits and sense of direction to get there. Well, probably not my sense of direction. It's not very good. You could also cut through the houses, but this would certainly result in tense encounters with armed, suspicious townfolk. We'll now have to choose. We'll have to find your way through the main street. Well, again, I may need some help with that because I'm pretty challenged when it comes to directions. I could also cut through the houses to the river. I could also do the cry out for help, but again, it requires no marker on the toll house, and there already is one. The last one here says requires the danger model be in my space. I could tackle the murderer. Well, sadly, that is not going to happen either. So with the options I have available, I can either find my way through the main street or cut through the houses to the river. I believe the river is the way to go because, well, after all, that's where he is. 35 states, you try to take a shortcut through the backyards and the houses towards the river, but suspicious townfolk don't want to let you through. I have to roll a charisma 8, but I do get +1 die for charm or diplomacy. If I get 2+, I go to 54. If I get at least 1, I move the enemy and go to 54, and if I fail, the enemy moves twice. For this test, I am going to choose the Paladin. The Paladin is going to be able to roll hopefully well enough, but if not, I do have Fate. I've got 2 Fate tokens. These can, of course, be used to re-roll the dice that we're going to be rolling. And if I can get enough successes, I know I need to roll really good on these dice, I could potentially get it so it doesn't move. I do only have 2 Charisma, but I do have those 2 Fate tokens. So hopefully I get enough just to be able to find this guy and not hopefully he won't move away from me again. We'll roll our 2 dice and hopefully get it. I want 2 successes here, and I've got the Fate tokens that can help. Oh, that's a fantastic roll. We got a 12, and you know what a 12 is? It's a critical success. That means that this is going to count as 2 successes when totaling up the amount that we have. Oh my gosh, that was absolutely phenomenal. We're going to move our party marker down 1 space to the river. We're in the same space. 54 states, move the party model to the river space. Well, we already did that. A small river separates the 2 halves of the town, its banks covered with sharp reeds and stinking garbage. However, its straight current is a convenient shortcut. Ignoring the cold, you dive into the water and swim downstream as fast as you can. In front, to the left, the reeds thin, and a muddy, stony embankment leads back to the town. Further downstream, there's a low bridge that you could use to climb out of the water and get back on the road. At this point, we have to choose. We can climb the embankment back to the streets, swim toward the bridge, wait, wait, no. Or we could requires the danger model in your space. How about tackle the murderer? Go to 71. Thrown about by the rushing current, you try to grab hold of the fugitive, but he slips away, swimming like a fish. You need to try again when you have better footing. No, he's going to get away. Move the enemy. Choose. Climb the embankment back to the streets, or go to 38, or swim toward the bridge, go to 39. Let's see what the enemy does first. Again, we'll roll our D8 and see where this guy is going to go. He got a 1, so that means he is going to move towards the bridge. So with that knowledge, so will we. 39 says, keeping your head above the rushing current isn't easy. I'm going to have to roll for strength 8. I get +1 if I have a keyword wild or resilience. If I get 3 or more successes, I go to 58. 1, I move the enemy and go to 58, or otherwise it's going to move twice. Come on, we got to get this. Lucky for us, our paladin has the wild keyword. So he is going to be the one that does this. With his strength score of 4, he's going to be rolling 5 dice. Come on, we need to get a lot of successes on these dice. Let's roll them up and see what we get. Come on, I need this. Let's do it. We have a 1, 2 successes on this roll. So I'm going to go ahead and spend a fate token, being able to re-roll any of our dice. We're going to keep the 2 successes, roll the other 3 up, and hopefully we just need only 1 more. Let's roll them up and see what we get. We got a 10. Yes, that's what we needed. We've got 3 successes, so we get to keep him where he is and turn to the next page. We again are going to move our party marker to the bridge. I'm super pumped, and it says the bridge's southern end leads to the other part part of the city, a dead end neither you nor the fugitive would pick. On its northern side, the main crossroads of Night Bloom Crossing loom in the distance, a wide road well suited for someone with fast feet. However, your keen eyes notice a crane on the edge of the bridge, used to lift loads from small boats. You could use its long arm to swing toward the riverside path, considerably cutting your distance. That is, if you know how to operate the crane's levers. At this point, we are going to choose again, run to the main crossroads, a big use the pier crane to swing toward the toll house, again There we could wait, again, I don't know why you'd want to wait. I guess maybe if you were at the front gate waiting would get the enemy to you, but we're not going to do that. We're going to tackle the murderer again. I need strength 9. I get +1 die for large or close combat. And if I get enough successes, I will get to go to 70. Now, lucky for us, again, our paladin who's going to be doing all these checks has the token that gives us the keyword large. So we're going to have him do this test and hopefully get him this time. But I do need a 9 strength. My strength is 4, and I get the extra die from my large. We'll roll this up. I need to get 2. So, oh, look at that, another critical success. So that means we're going to get 2 for that one, plus the 11 is going to be a total of 3 successes. Oh, that's awesome. Seeing the murderer just in front, you double your efforts. Anger gives you more strength than the golden strands of divinium give him. Soon, you leap at his back. You both tumble to the ground, plowing through muck and straw that covers the town streets. When you come to a rest, he kicks you away and jumps to his feet. Then he looks at his dirty hands and says, "You'll regret this, pest. I'll teach you not to challenge your betters." As you stand up to meet him, he extends his hands toward the ground. A short command rings in your ears like a word of the gods themselves. At his call, the ground rises, spewing out crooked shapes made of straw, muck, wooden boards, and golden, glistening divinium. They rush toward you, while the murderer stands back, starting to weave another spell. He truly is a powerful wielder. Now that you see him better, something in the look of his slender, harsh face seems familiar, but you have no time to ponder this now. As you prepare to face him and his constructs that seem to be leaking hastily bonded divinium, there's a lot of raw power now spread around the area. Maybe you could use it to even the chances. With most of your equipment left behind in the House of Healing, you need every advantage you can get. At this point, we are going to place sheet 2 to the right of the story tracker. Then we'll place Muddlings and the Mysterious Murderer, cards E2 and E1, enemy cards on the table in one line that starts with Muddlings. Find the enemy activation cards for Mysterious Murderer, they're A2 and A3. We'll shuffle them and place them in a face-down pile below his card. Then we'll find the enemy activation card for Muddlings, A01. We'll shuffle them, well there's only one, and place them face down below their card. At this point, we'll place 2 damage on the Mysterious Murderer enemy card, or for the tutorial, we'll place 5 instead of 2. Now, since I'm playing the tutorial, we are going to place the 5, but if you'd already done this and knew all the ways of how combat works and all the things you could do with it, 2 would make it a more tough fight for you. I've taken sheet 2 and placed it down here, and 1 is over on the other side. And that way you have the ability of using both of these at the same time if you needed to, or if you ever had to go back to, for example, sheet 1, you can use both of these interchangeably if needed. And I love the fact the story tracker kind of sits right in the middle and gives you an idea of kind of what's going on and how to, and they are actually 2 separate entities, but I think this is a neat system where you got 2 different things that could interchange with each other as you play through this particular story point. I'm quickly panning away because I've had a lot of questions about the amount of space that this game takes on the table, so I'm just quickly showing you what it looks like. There's really not a lot of space comparatively. If you wanted to, I know it looks like a lot, but it's all spread out across the table. You could move some of the other things around so that you have the ability to keep it all in a more condensed space. I could put the 2 storybook parts above the two character boards, making it fit on a smaller table. But I think anybody could have a chance at being able to put this on their table as long as you have some ingenuity. But it's really not as big as most other games that I've played. Here are our two enemy cards. We have the Mudlings and we have the Mysterious Murderer. Now the things you're seeing on the card, the first one down here is its hit points. The number up in the upper right corner is going to be its card number. So if you went to find them, that's what you'd be looking for. These are the keywords. And over here is the difficulty number that you're going to need. For example, if I were to try to hit this thing, let's say with my smash attack here, I would need to roll strength and I would have to hit that number 6 in order to do damage for this particular enemy. The activation deck is going to go below the card, and it only has one. It's A01, so we'll take that card and just place it right there, ready to go. Now we move over to the Mysterious Marauder. He's going to have 4 times the number of heroes, which is 2, so he's going to have 8 plus 6 is 14 health, which I've put on the dial over here. Now, of course, we get to do 5 damage, so it's going to go down to, let's see here, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. It's going to have 9 health, which will make it a little bit easier for myself. Well, hopefully we'll get through this. He does have an activation deck as well. That's going to be cards A02 and A03. They are right here. We're going to take those, give them a quick little truffle shuffle here, and place them down on the activation part of his board as well. And when it becomes his turn, we will draw them. This particular battlefield does have an arcane action called Divinium Blast. It can be used once per activation, and in order to use it, we have to roll our int and div and get 10 or more. Now, the div for our characters are all a d4 at this point, but if we are able to get 2 or more successes, we're able to deal the amount of damage here to an enemy. Now, if we fail, we gain a tear and deal half damage to an enemy. This does have the ability to hit anywhere on the board. It can hit 1 in any range. Next, we're going to place the Mysterious Marauder in a space marked with that square symbol. Then we're going to place Hero +1 Mutterlings in spaces marked with the circle, starting with the lowest numbered space. All characters in spaces marked with triangle. We'll then build the initiative bag with heroes worth of dual tokens, 2 white tokens, and 2 black tokens. Now, since the tutorial, we would go to 10 and start the combat. Note, after the combat is concluded, the victory and defeat information is found on sheet 2 and will direct you to your next entry. We're going to place our enemies first. We'll put the Mutterlings in 1, 2, and 3 in those spaces right there. Now remember, we can place our characters into the triangle places on the board. So we'll have to figure out where the best spot for our characters are. We'll place our Hunter right here, and we'll place our Paladin here. Hopefully those are good spots for them. And finally in the back, we'll be placing down our Mysterious Murderer. Here he is. Look at this amazing model. We're going to place that right down in the back, right there. And one of the next steps we do need to do is make our initiative bag. What it told us to do is take player number of dual tokens, which are these double-sided white and black tokens. So we have 2 of those. Then we have 2 black and 2 white tokens. We're going to place them all into our initiative bag. I hope these are the kind of bags that continue to be used moving forward. If not, if they maybe even getting better. But I love them because they're deep and they have that like bottom pocket, so they're easy to dig into. So we're going to place all of these tokens in here. What these tokens are going to do is decide who is going to have initiative. We're going to go over a complete kind of tutorial of how this works, but so some of this might be repeated moving forward, but I just want to talk about what it is. White is going to be our activations, black is going to be the enemy's activations, and based on whoever activated last is going to activate if a dual token is drawn. If, for example, our enemy has activated and we drew a dual token, we would be the next one to activate because they activated previously. If we had been the one that activated, that means that if we draw a dual token, the enemies would activate next. It's a pretty awesome system. So it has a pretty good chance of at least you activating instead of being totally mobbed by the enemy. So we're going to place all of those into our initiative bag, give it a good old truffle shake here, and then let's dig into the next part. Here's the tutorial portion of the battle. It says you are about to engage in your first combat. Combat in Lands of Evershade are fast-paced turn-based engagement that take place on a tactical sheet with a movement grid. For your first encounter, simply follow the steps below. All instructions that require you to do something are marked in bold. So if we go through this entire tutorial about how to do a combat, it's going to what we call handhold this battle, where it's going to tell us kind of what you're drawing, what to roll, things like that. I want to make this more of a living game, so I'm not going to be doing the handhold tactical combat that it's showing here. We're going to play the combat as if we already know how to do it. To begin our combat, we're going to draw our first activation token out of the bag. We're going to give them a good old truffle shuffle. We're going to draw them out, and we got the black one. So that means our enemies are going to activate first, and you're going to activate them in order from left to right. So that means our mudlings are going to activate. We're going to draw one of their activation cards. They only have one, and we'll do what it says. Advance. Move 2 towards the enemy, then clumsy bash. Attack. Target adjacent enemy. Deal 3 damage on a success of 6. So each mudling is going to activate. It is going to advance and move 2 towards the closest target, and that's going to be him. So 1 and 1, 2. These 2 are going to move like this. This one will move 1 to right here. Now, whenever you move in this game, it is all going to be orthogonal, so they cannot move. Nobody can move diagonal unless there's a special ability or something that allows them to. On top of that, enemies can move through you may move through your allies, but you cannot move through enemies, and you cannot end your turn on an ally's space. With their movement complete, they are now going to do the second part, so that each muddling is going to attack an adjacent character for 3 damage, and the difficulty of the attack is going to be 6. At this point, our characters can use any type of defensive reactions they wish to, and to hopefully prevent any of the damage coming forward. Our paladin is going to trigger his exceptional endurance. I'm going to roll for strength. For every success, I'm going to prevent 1 plus the amount of successes I get in damage. So we're going to roll our strength and see what we get. Now remember, the number I'm trying to hit is 6. That is the target number that is associated with our enemy. So roll our 4 dice for our strength, since we have 4, which is awesome. We need to get 6s. I've got 1, 2, which is just enough because 1, 2 plus 1 is 3. That's going to soak up all the damage. I'm not going to take any damage from the first attack. We'll move to the second attack and use our exceptional strength again for the second attack and see how it goes. Roll these up. I got a 12, which is automatically going to count as 2, and we also got a 9, so that's 3 again. So we got a total of 4 damage we were able to soak up. So we took no damage from the original attack, from the initial attack of the mudlings. With that card done, we are going to exhaust it by flipping it over and placing it back on its slot. These cards will be able to be used again. They will refresh at the beginning of my activation. When I choose to activate this character is when they're going to activate, not at the beginning of a round like in some of the normal other games I've played. This is going to only refresh when it becomes his turn. So if multiple enemies are attacking before I can activate my character, I might be out of all of these reaction cards, and I would just have to take the damage. I wouldn't have any way of preventing it from hitting me. So hopefully he activates pretty soon. I'm going to need that card back. Our hunter is going to use dodge. I'm going to roll agility, and I'm going to need a 6 or better. I get -1 die if I have that symbol in my equipment anywhere, and I do not. If I get 1 success, I'm able to prevent 3 damage. So we're going to do that. We'll put that right here. I get to roll my agility. My agility is 3 dice, so roll those up, and I need to get a 6 or better on at least 1 die, and we got an 8. So that's enough to prevent all of the damage because it prevents 3. So we're going to exhaust that card, and our muddlings have activated. It is now time to reach back into the bag of awesome here and see what we have found. We have found a dual token. So the dual token then, of course, will allow us to activate because the mudderlings were the last one to activate. I'm going to choose to activate my paladin, mainly because I want that card back. So I'm going to put my token right there to symbolize that I'm activating him. We're going to refresh any of his cards that are free to refresh. There are cards that do not come back automatically. For example, if I were to use my command card, it says, do not refresh this card at the start of your activation. I have to pay fate in order to refresh this card. Also, at any point, if I decided not to activate this character and then something else activated, I could pay fate to be able to bring cards back that are exhausted, even if it's not my turn. Now I'm able to do 2 different actions. Two basic actions you are allowed to do are move and first aid. The movement one says you may use one action to move a number of spaces equal to your move value. His value is 6. The other one is I could do first aid on myself or an ally. I have to roll my intelligence, which is super good, it's 2, and I need an 8 plus. Plus 1 die for medicine. He does. I don't think he has medicine. He had no medicine. So if I do, I would get plus 1 health if I'm for each success or for a success. So I would be able to gain back at least 1 health if I did that. But we're not going to heal him even taking damage. So instead, my 2 actions are going to be attack and bash. Attack and bash. That sounds like an awesome way. First one we're going to do is attack. It says here I have to. It's an attack and requires a melee weapon at range 1. So I can only attack orthogonally. And there's a guy right in that space and a guy in that space. So he's going to get. They're both going to get thumped. It says roll for strength. If I am able to, for 1 plus, I deal damage, which is going to hopefully be enough to kill him. And since the Mudlings only have 1 damage, this weapon will kill them because it is able to do 2 damage when I'm able to successfully hit them. For this attack, the number I'm attempting to hit is this 6 right here. We're going to attempt to hit that number. I get to roll 4 dice with my strength here, and I got an 8. That's enough to be 1 success. With that 1 success, I'm able to do 2 damage with only 1 health that they have. I'm going to be able to take one of them off the board, so that one is dead. I'm going to put this into my exhausted section, and then next I'm going to do smash. I am going to roll strength, and I get to deal damage. I get to do damage, and then ignore any armor he has for every success. So I'm going to smash this guy. I'm going to roll 4 dice. We're going to smash him real good. Let's smash him up here. I got 2 1s and 2 8s. Those 2 1s are fantastic because even though I succeeded, those 1s are still going to give me fate tokens. So I got 2 more fate tokens. So I have a total of 3 fate tokens right now. That's super awesome. Plus this guy is super dead. He's off the board. I'm going to place my 2 more fate tokens down here in the inventory. I do want you to know that fate tokens are limited to the supply that you have. The game comes with 10 of them, so if you ever get to wanting to get an 11th fate token, you would not be able to gain that fate token. So you can hoard these as much as you want, but you do eventually want to spend them. With our paladin absolutely rocking, we're going to reach into our bag again here and pull out another token. We have gotten a white token, so that means our hunter gets to activate. There's one person adjacent to her, so she is going to use her stab. It requires a dagger, and lo and behold, I have a dagger. I get to roll my agility, and I deal damage. If I get a success, I will deal damage, and +1 if I have stealth. And this character does not have stealth, but we are going to exhaust this card, and she is going to make an attack. But before I do, I should have unexhausted my dodge card, so it's available to me. I have 3 agility, and I need a 6. Let's see how we do. I got an 8, 11, and a 9. That's 3. This thing's dead. I'm going to do enough damage to kill this thing off. It is gone to the wayside. Now that our 2 characters have activated, we're going to look at the rest of the combat overview. Instead of drawing any tokens, we're going to read right here. It says, if all characters were activated and some enemy cards were not, skip the draw step and activate the remaining cards in order. So the only person that we have not activated yet is our murderer, Mysterious Murderer. So we're going to draw his card and activate him. Here we have a 0-2, fall back, move 2 away from the closest person. So I'm going to just guess he's going to move 1-2 back to there because that is farther away from him, because remember they do have to move orthogonally. So that's farther. It now says power bolt, attack ranged spell. So the target is going to be the closest person. It's going to deal 1 plus half the number of players. So that's 2 damage with an attack of 7. Once that's done, it's going to summon, which is a spell, and it's going to spawn 1 mudling on an empty triangle space closest to the murderer. So the amount of damage the enemy is doing is 2, 1 plus half the number of players. When it does come to doing halves, you always do round up, but we don't have to worry about that because we have 2 players, so that makes an even nice one. I'm going to do an exceptional endurance again, being able to roll my strength, and for each 7 plus, I get to prevent 1 plus damage. So we'll roll these up, see how we do. I need a 7 plus. I did get a 12, so that's an automatic 2 successes plus an 8, plus I got another 1. So I get yet again another fate. I'm going to take that fate and place it on there, so I've got 4. My paladin is rocking. I am going to put this into its exhausted state, and I am going to be done with our enemy, except for the bottom part. He now has to summon one, or spawn one Mudling. So we're going to grab a Mudling and place it in a triangle closest to the enemy. While I am standing on one, so it's not going to go there. It's actually going to go right there. Perfect. Now that we've come to the end of the round, we are going to resolve when each character and enemy has activated. We're going to return all activation tokens to the bags. We're going to grab the 3 that we have out there, place them back into the bag, shuffle it up again, and since nothing told us to change the amount of tokens we have in there, we're just going to draw a token and start the next round. And that's how fast combat goes. It's our turn to activate. That's awesome. I'm going to have my paladin activate. He's going to refresh all the abilities he's allowed to refresh, which is going to be his attack, his exceptional endurance, and he's also going to get his bash card back as well. So he's got attack, bash, and exceptional endurance. He gets to perform 2 actions. The first one he's going to perform is move. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's going to move right to there. And at this point, he is going to smash, 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 smash. I'm going to roll my strength, +1 success. I deal damage, and I ignore 1 armor. Now, our enemy does not have any armor. It would be a symbol on here showing how much armor he has. He does not have any at this time. So instead, I'm just going to smash him real good. Now my strength, of course, is 4, so I get to roll 4 dice, and for each 9+, I get to deal a damage on top of all of my weapon damage as well, which is going to be 2. I also am going to use Combat Insight on my hunter. At this point, during a roll, she can support with 1 die. So I'm going to support this attack with her as well. I'm going to use the one with the black writing for her die that she is using as a combat support. We're going to exhaust this card and place this back on her board, and she is going to help him out, hopefully like cheering him on or something from the side. We got a total of 7, 6, 3, 10, and 3. We need to get 9s in order to hit him. So we've actually hit him only once. I've got a lot of fate. I don't see why I don't spend it. Now, the 3 has to go in a separate pile because that's her roll. She would have to use her own fate if she wishes to, but she's not going to. She only has 1 fate. She's going to hold on to that. We're going to roll again. That is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to discard my fate for that roll, and now we're going to see how many we have. We have 1, 2, 3. 3 is pretty good. I think we're going to do the 3 damage, 4, 5 damage to him. Because when looking at damage here, it's going to deal success amount of damage, ignoring armor, and it's going to do, and then you also get to add your weapon damage in as well, which is going to be 2. Dealing 5 damage, that's going to knock this guy down to 4 health, pretty close to death. And at this point, we'll draw our next token out of the bag. Let's see what we got. We got a black token, so that is going to activate the Mutterling. He's going to advance 2 towards the closest person, which is right there, and make a clumsy attack at 6, dealing 3 damage. We're going to use our dodge to stop that. Our dodge is going to be the agility check of 3 dice, and I need a 6 or better. I did not get a 6 or better, so lucky for her, she saved her fate. She is going to spend that fate in order to re-roll her dice. So we'll get to re-roll all 3 of these dice and see how it goes. I need at least a 6. I got 1 6, but look at that. That is like a super roll. I got 2 more fate tokens, and I also dodged all the damage. If I am successful, it says I am able to prevent 3 damage. So I'll put 2 fate tokens in her inventory and call it a day. We took no damage from that guy. We'll reach into our bag again and draw out a token and see how we do. We got a dual token, and since the Mutterling went, it is our turn to activate. So our hunter is going to refresh all of her abilities, bringing back her stab card, her combat insight, and her dodge. So she is going to stab this thing. Stab, stab, stab. I am looking for 6s on my agility because our enemy has a 6 thing we need, and it says we've got an 11 and a 9. That's good enough. I'm going to deal damage, equal amount of success. I got 2, plus her weapon is 1, so that's 3. Thing's super dead because it only has 1 health, so we'll move that from the board. And with that, our mysterious murderer is the only one left, so it's going to draw its next enemy activation card. It's going to fall back, move 4 away from the closest enemy. So it's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4 down here away from him. Then it's going to magic bolt, range attack spell, target the person with the most moon symbols, and then deal 1 plus the half the amount, so 2 damage, 2, and it has a ability of 9. Then it's going to summon, spawn 1/1 Mutterling in an empty space closest to the murderer. So I am just going to summon that now for recording purposes. I'll put that right there. And then we have to just figure out who this enemy is going to attack. It's going to attack people with the moon symbol. Looking at our Paladin's hotbar, it does show that we have 2 moon symbols on our clumsy dodge. We do not have any on any of the other cards. And you do count the ones even if they're flipped upside down. But do notice, if say we had used our exceptional dodge and it was exhausted, the 2 star symbols that were on it are not viable to be counted. So one of the tactics is to have potentially certain amount of symbols not there or there, depending on who you're fighting. Because now that you know kind of how the deck works, he has only 2 cards, you know that this card may come up again, so you might not want to have moons. Notice the smash symbol has only 1 when it's not exhausted, but it has 2 when it's exhausted. So the cards do change based on what they are. I do only have 2 showing on any of these cards. And our hunter also only has 2 showing on her dodge card. Now again, if she would have used her dodge at some point, that would have been exhausted, and it wouldn't have had any, and it would have targeted our Paladin. Since both of our characters have 2, we are at a tie, so the players get to decide who it would want to target. And of course, remember, at the end of the day, the person with this token would be able to have the most say into how this all transpires. I am going to have this person attack, I think I'm just going to have him attack the Paladin, because why not? That Paladin got so many health points, and that exceptional endurance is out of control. For this particular spell, though, I am going to need to get a 9+ in order to prevent any damage. So I'm going to roll my exceptional endurance. I've got 4 strengths, so we'll roll them up. See how we do. I got a 10, 11, a 2, and a 7. So the 10 and 11 will prevent the 2 damage, and I would prevent 1 automatically from my exceptional endurance. Now, the difference between, of course, endurance and exceptional endurance is her endurance only prevents the number of the number of successes you get, where I get 1+ because of my character being so amazingly awesome. We'll discard our card, and we will refresh all of our tokens, exhausting our defensive action that we used. Now, interestingly enough, if we do draw a black token before we draw a white token, I will not have that exceptional endurance to prevent myself from getting absolutely wrecked by that guy. So hopefully we don't draw a black token. We drew a white and black token. Now, since it's the beginning of the turn and we haven't chosen we haven't seen another token played, we get to choose which one we want to activate. We could have the Mutterlings activate, or we could have ourselves activate. Now, most likely, I think having ourselves activate is going to be our best bet, but sometimes it's not. Remember, the card here, of course, targeted the people with the most moons. So if you had a character that you wanted to be specifically targeted, but if you refresh the cards, it wouldn't be the target anymore, you might want to activate the enemy that would then go and target that person. So there is some strategy involved into how you want to use this particular token if you draw it first. But for this is a very basic combat. There isn't a lot of things going on here. I am going to use it to activate my Paladin. He's just going to go in and smash this guy real good. I'm also going to get my exceptional endurance back. We're going to run in here. We're going to smash this guy. I'm going to use my first activation to move. 1, 2, 3, 4, right down here. And then we're going to smash him with my big giant, what is it, hammer. I got my hammer. This thing's awesome. I love this. I love this hammer. It's so good. Oh, hammer, don't hurt him. Oh, actually, I hope it does. So I need a 9 or better to hit, and I'm actually going to use the combat insight again to be able to give him +1 attack. I am going to grab my smash card and be able to use that as well. So I'm rolling for a 9s or better. Let's see how we do. I got 1, 2, 2 9s. I'm going to re-roll these with a fate roll and see how we do. I do have a ton of fate, so I'm going to discard 1 fate token to re-roll these 3 dice. I got another 9 and a 10, so that's 4 successes. 1, 2, 3, 4, so it's going to do 4 damage +2 from my hammer, which is probably going to be enough to take this guy down. He only has 4 left, so he is going to be ended. I have ended that guy. A couple things I do want to mention about combat, in case we don't see it for the rest of this act. I could have decided to use this at any time as well if I was having trouble trying to hit this guy with some of my abilities or weapons. So there are other ways in this particular battlefield to damage some of these enemies out here. Also, there is cover in this game where if you're attacking somebody who has cover, they're going to be able to gain an extra, or if you have cover, you're going to gain an extra die when using any of your type of reaction abilities. And if you're attacking somebody with cover, you're going to subtract a die from the ability check used to try to damage an enemy. So the game does come with cover. Shooting over these type of impassable areas here is going to give particular people cover when it comes to the combats of ranged attack. So there are some tactics involved in the way you want to do combat in this game. But like I said, this is a very basic first mission combat here. So we were successful. We will see what we have to do. It says that since you are victorious, you can go to 75. Your strike brings the murderer to his knees. With his control cut short, the mutterlings collapse back into the muck. Weak and unable to utter a word, the man gestures at you, pleading for you to hold the final blow. While he tries to catch his breath, you notice a glint of something golden in his extended hand. A large ring with a family crest that looks vaguely familiar. You take the ring from his finger and look at it closely. Then your gaze at the face of the murderer. Suddenly, everything connects. You know this man. You've seen him in Whitewell. His name is Vladimir Oldenbaugh, and he's one of the 7 patricians who rule the city together. There were rumors of power-hungry wielders stalking the land to gather divinium, but you never expected to be this bad. With your mind racing, it takes you a second too long to notice something is happening with Valerius. His body starts to glow and rise from the ground. The bonding is complete. He now has Enid's entire power at his disposal. You strike, but he's faster. A powerful force blasts you back, and before you can get back into the fight, Valerius is already far away, fleeing from the town into the dark hills beyond, faster than any man you've seen. A while later, you sit in a long hall among all the prominent people of the town. Once they hear your whole story, pure shock crosses their face. They want justice, and your testimony with the seal now in your possession is good proof of Valerius' crime. At this point, we are going to gain the patrician's ring, signet ring here. So we have this token, and on the back it does come with card 114, which states we're able to gain focus divinium. Roll your DIV roll an additional D6 die as well. And on the back it does exhaust, so we would have to pay a fate in order to unexhaust it during battle. Do know that any cards with that particular thing that you have to pay for do refresh when you go to camp. So we're not probably going to see camp in this particular act, but if you do go to camp, you would be able to refresh any of these powers back to their original use. We're also going to return all activation tokens to the initiative bag, return all enemy cards and enemy activations to the box, return all model and token markers from sheet 2 to the box. I'm going to discard sheet 2. We're going to refresh your action and reaction cards. Note, to refresh any HP lost in this combat, try to heal any injuries, you will have to rest. The rest rules will be introduced soon. If you have any improvised weapon tokens, I am now to discard them. We do not. We actually went and got our weapons. The discussion moves to another troubling topic. Loriath is mortally injured. No one left in the entire of Blackridge can stop the bleeding from her deep wound. The dressings and tourniquet can only keep her alive for so long. With Enid dead, Loriath is now the strongest wielder of the province, even if she's only a shadow of her teacher's abilities. For this part of Evershade to thrive, she has to live. And the only people who could help her are the priests of Whitewell. Someone has to take Lyrith to the city, a group small enough to travel fast, but capable enough to deal with any dangers of the trail. A group that, once in Whitewell, could make a convincing case against Valerius, who knows once he's tried and put to the sword, Lyrith may be able to claim back her teacher's divinium. This could bring Nightbloom Crossing to a new era of prosperity. All eyes fall on you, and after a short consideration, you agree to go. Why? What pushed you toward this decision? At this point, we have to choose. It says you're in it for justice and vengeance. You're in it for the good of Blackridge. You're in it for personal power. All right, I have to make a choice. The first one talks about how the healer was your friend and the most selfless person you ever knew. You cannot let the crime slide and let Valerius enjoy his new power free of any consequence. If that's our choice, we go to 85. Well, they're all going to go to 85. It's just a matter of what we mark on our story tracker. Oh, interesting. The other one is you're in it for the good of Blackridge. This land was your home for many months, and you realize how many men, children, and women will die of ailments that could have easily been cured by a healer with enough divinium. So I have to mark Y on that one. And the last one is you're in it for personal power. Our healer friend was an ally, and a useful one at that, but would never kill her and claim her power. But this event, it presents a unique opportunity. You cannot kill someone and take the divinium on purpose, but if you accidentally kill a fugitive, none will deny the power you gain with it. And that was a lot of power. Enough to finally make a name for yourself. Oh, these are all good choices. They're all fun. I think we're going to go for the justice and vengeance. We're not going to put anything on the story marker, and we're just going to go to 85. The next day, you set on to a trail with a small one-horse cart that carries Lyrith and all your possessions. Night Bloom Crossing soon disappears behind. A bright flower in the dark vale. Far in front of you, a giant column of light falls from the skies, the same column that falls into the circular well in the center of Whitewell, giving the city its name. You look at the cracked disk of Luadia, far above your head where the lights originate. They say one day her shield will fail. One day light will come and claim all. You say a simple prayer for the Moon Lady to guide you in your travels. Then you step forth onto the road of Evershade. At this point, we'll get rid of sheet 1 and all the markers we had on there. All of our characters are going to gain 2 XP. For the tutorial portion of this, XP is represented with a standard markers. Move the marker on your XP bar up 2 spaces. Since the marker reached the final space of your XP bar, you have advanced. Take your first advancement token and place it in your pouch. Reset the marker on your XP bar to 0. Advancements are assigned during the camp phase you will enter soon. Congratulations, you have completed Act 1 of Chapter 1 of this adventure. Woo! We were victorious! I really didn't have much of a doubt. Depending on your decisions, this chapter, second final act, can take from 30 minutes to 2 hours. Before proceeding, ensure you have enough time and that none of the players are tired. I'm not tired. I'm ready to go on. Like it said, we do get 2 experience points, so we are going to move our experience points up 2, which does put us our final mark, so we do advance. So I'm going to take our token here, and we're going to have to choose where we want to place this on our characters. But for now, we are just going to put it inside of our pouch, which of course is our little tuck box. We'll place that right in there. And then as we go forward here, our paladin can choose one of these to learn. I could either take Guided Smite or Battle Prayers, or we could go down the Warfare track and gain Coordinated Advance, or I can upgrade Command Card, or I could do Battle Magic and gain Energy Shield and Energy Bolt if I wanted to. Those are different ways to advance our character moving forward. We will of course place our experience points back down to 0, and now we'll have to get 3 in order to advance to our next level. Our hunter is also going to gain 2 experience points, put it back down, and gain 1 token that we'll put into our pouch. We then have to choose how we're going to level our hunter up. We'll have to look at her card. It shows here that we could learn shoot and dash or take aim. Or we could go down the marksmanship row and grab focus, or we could go down nature and grab sense danger. Those are some options for our hunter. Also, we gained the signet ring here, so we're going to put that into her slot. I'm going to give her that. She also has now gained this additional action that I'm going to put into her pouch. We'll have to decide if we want to put that on our bar if we ever get to a camping location, which I'm pretty sure is going to be at the beginning of our next thing, but I'm not sure about that. We'll have to see moving into Act 2. But we'll be doing all that in our next video. So this is the first act that you saw for Lands of Evershade. Some other things that were not covered on this particular part of the playthrough is there are time tokens that are going to be placed into our tracker for our turns or for our stories. They're going to be just placed right here, and it has a tendency to see how many days you have or how long it takes you to get to the end of certain places. There's also a one for just different types of daytime, nighttime, dawn, things of that nature, which will be able to change the way different parts of the story unfold as you're going forward. So there is that type of mechanic. There's status effects that could happen to you. There's a lot of different things that are going to probably be taking place in Act 2, including our camp. We also did not get to see the camp. That is in Act 2. You'll probably see that because I will be going into Act 2 coming up very soon. I'm having an absolute blast playing through Lands of Evershade. I hope you enjoyed the playthrough. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell symbol so you know when more Lands of Evershade comes out. Also, please feel free to leave anything in the comments section below. If you are enjoying this game, let me know if it's something you're interested in. If you do have any questions, please let me know as well. I hopefully can try to answer them to the best of my ability. I will, of course, be putting the GameFound link into the description of this video. If you like what you see or want to learn more about this game, please check out that link. On top of that, if you're interested in supporting the channel, the link to the Patreon is also found in the description of this video. Those that are part of the Patreon are shown here on the screen. Thank you so much for your patronage. It does mean the world to me. Some of the perks that our Patreon supporters get is we do allow our Patreons to watch any of our playthrough videos. Colin and my playthrough videos, we usually let them watch a day or two ahead of time without commercial interruptions. Also, we let them decide how the characters progress going forward. Since we do have an experience point, we're going to have to place it somewhere. I'll be looking to my Patreon supporters to help us decide how we should level up. Should we take our hunter into the primary area? Should we add marksman or nature? I'll have to have them decide what we do with our character. It gives them the ability to help us decide how our characters go forward in the game and gives them the ability to affect the game moving forward. So there you have it, Lands of Evershade. Thanks again to Awaken Realms for providing me with a prototype to give you the content for this game, and I hope it is able to help you decide if it's something you'd be interested in. Again, thank you so much for watching, and if you're excited to see more Lands of Evershade or anything else that Colin and I have coming up, then I need you to meet me at the table.